Chris and Chris Talk Movies.
Hello, and welcome back to the podcast. My name is Ferry, and of course, this is my co-host.
My name is Chris Huddleston.
Today, we are both very excited to be talking to you about the 1984 now cult classic horror film, Night of the Comet. Do you have a synopsis for us, Mr. Huddleston?
I do. So, 1984 film, as we said. So, it is directed by Thom Eberhardt. After a rare comet sighting, teen sisters Regina, Catherine Mary Stewart, and Samantha Kelli Maroney find that they're among the only survivors of a zombie attack. And I will get to that. I don't think that's great. It's more the comet wipes out everybody on the planet, basically, almost, except for a few. The girls partner with another survivor, Hector Robert Beltran, but as they try to avoid the zombies, they're sought by scientists who want to experiment on their bodies in the hope of finding an antidote. Dodging both the doctors and the undead, they keep moving in the hope that they can continue to stay alive. So this was a first-timer for you, right?
Yeah, I clearly had seen parts of it before because I remembered certain lines, but I didn't remember. Like it felt like a first viewing for me.
Okay.
And I loved it. It's great. It's vintage, probably shot in 83 if it was really 84. So the music and the hairstyles and the attitude, and it just solid gold. $700,000 budget.
Oh, okay. I meant to check on that, and I did not. But
like 14 million, so pretty good. It doesn't feel like an expensive movie, but it doesn't feel like a cheap movie either. They just my favorite part of it is they really effectively create an empty. Is it San Diego or LA?
It's LA. Yeah. They talk about them being valley girls, so it's somewhere in the valley, I guess.
So it really does feel like they're the last people on Earth. And I kind of love that. I love movies.
Me too.
That are, I know you just have to lock off shots and make sure there's nobody wandering around, but the effect of being absolutely alone in a big city, it's just great. So, that's my hot 2 cents. What do you think?
Yeah, so I had this was not one that for whatever reason I saw originally, though this was in my childhood wheelhouse definitely, but I didn't see it for whatever reason. And at first I watched it was a few years ago, and I really liked it. And I totally agree with what you said. I love these kind of last people on Earth movies. It felt at times, because it's some similar things going on. The Omega Man does the same thing. I don't remember where the Omega Man was shot. It might have been shot in New York City. I don't know. But the same thing of just a large city just empty is very eerie. So that's really effective. I thought they did a very smart thing with the fact that they didn't have a lot of budget to work with. So the movie opens with people are very excited about this comet coming. So it's a big party, and they just kind of show the sky turns red, and then they just cut to the next day, and there are just piles of clothes and shoes in the streets with just sand, and I thought that instead of trying to show people melting or exploding or whatever, that would not look great, especially probably, in hindsight wouldn't look great. But again, you just piles of clothes with sand on them is an eerie effect. And then the rest of it is just the sky is red, which again, just is eerie and ominous,
Yeah, no, the sand, the red dust that everybody sort of turns into who is directly exposed to the comet, and just they were having a block party where the girl's mother was out watching it, and so we see, her dress and her shoes, and then just the red sand, but all of the people. So it's really creepy.
Mm-hmm.
It's super effective.
And if you are saying, if this is not one that you've seen before and you're saying, oh, another zombie movie, because I'm someone who very much feels this way, it's very lightly a zombie movie. To be honest, I forgot that there were these sort of zombies in it, and there's not many of them.
Zombie is kind of a misnomer.
Yeah.
What it really is if you have any exposure to the comet, and I guess if you have any exposure to the dust itself, because the people in the lab didn't have any exposure to the comet directly, but they had the ventilators running or something.
Right.
So I don't know precisely how it works, but you also are going to completely dehydrate, I guess, into red dust. It's just going to take longer. And in the meantime, you kind of lose your mind and you become this sort of psychopath, quote unquote zombie. So the living, soon to be dead. And they look scary. Their faces have started to come apart, and their skin's sort of starting to slough off, and right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, it's not crazy to say zombie, but it's not a zombie movie.
Right. And the movie itself, really fun. I got to check their names again because I've already forgotten them. But the two girls, Regina, who's Catherine Mary Stewart, and Samantha Kelli Maroney, who they're playing like 18 and 17 or 18 and 16. And the older sister was 25 and the younger sister was 19. But it very much falls on the relationship of the two of them and the chemistry that they have together, which I think is great. Yep. For, again, a pretty low budget movie, the acting in this is pretty good. And the two of them, I remember, so Catherine Mary Stewart was in The Last Starfighter. And, she's one of those, I can remember kind of one of those childhood crushes, they're both really cute, but they do a good acting job overall in this.
The script is pretty good. There's a couple of like 80s one-liners that felt like they clinked here and there, but for the most part, I thought the script, by minute 10, the comet has come over and we're in it. Like it doesn't waste any time getting from one plot point to the next. So it turns out that they're not alone. They go into a radio station and they broadcast, and they're picked up by these scientists in a lab who we later learn have been exposed and are in the process of dying from it. And what it turns out, they're bringing them back to the lab, but the nefarious twist is that they're finding survivors to bleed them to as perpetual blood donors, so they can try and come up with some sort of a serum and save them. I mean, I guess by extension save whoever else is, but primarily save themselves.
Yeah.
And I think there's some good horror movie fun in that too, as the two scientists are sort of cheerfully talking about how they find a couple of kids and how they're gonna, basically they make the people brain dead and then they just keep them alive on a ventilator so that they can constantly be drawing blood.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some twists and turns. There's one scientist who we think is rogue and is the bad guy, which turns out is actually the good guy and doesn't want to go along with the plan. And there's some shoot 'em up 80s. They have Uzis or something at one point.
Yeah.
So there's a fair amount of that. It was just really fun. I just really enjoyed it.
I thought this would be one that we talked. So we got together for, maybe people have heard about this in other episodes, but we got together last weekend. You had the East Hampton Independent Film Festival that you set up. And one of the nights that we were together, we were talking about the podcast and how I like to, throw these horror films at you. And I've gotten pretty good, I think, at picking the ones that I think are going to be, and I thought, oh, this is going to be one that, that Chris will like. So,
right.
And I saw several references just kind of looking through stuff about this, referring to it as a spoof, which I don't really see that. There's comedy in it. I mean, there are jokes and things, but this seems like a pretty earnest sci-fi horror thing. And I don't see, it's like they were saying they're spoofing like 60s sci-fi horror stuff, which I didn't really see that at all. And had I seen this as a kid, I would have thought this was pretty scary.
Yeah, I didn't find it. I mean, there's some moments and there's some creepy stuff. I think primarily the movie, it's a horror movie, no doubt. But it is a lot of fun, and it would have been a fun movie to go take a date to see, and it's I think there's a lot of homage, and spoof is the term that I'm kind of hung up on.
Yeah.
It's like it takes all those tropes and it plays with them. It keeps things pretty lighthearted. The banter between the sisters, and they find another guy, Hector, who is a sort of a third, friend they find, and so the repartee between the three of them is good, and they escape from the scientists. At the end, they're doing a sort of a family thing where it's sort of Reggie is kind of mom and Hector's kind of dad, and the two kids, and they're taking pictures with the Polaroid, and then another survivor pulls up that turns out probably to have been the guy whose initials were on the Tempest video game that Reggie is so obsessed with in the beginning.
Yeah. I like that you knew there was going to be a callback to that at some point, but
the younger sister is always complaining that there's never a guy for her, that her older sister, Reggie, always, ends up with a guy that she likes. So this guy pulls up and they drive off and like, okay, I'll be home by midnight, and it's sort of, silly, but I don't think that the whole movie feels like a spoof of anything to me. I think people make horror movies and they make choices about the tone that they want to land and how scary and how harrowing they want to make it and how funny and how lighthearted. And I feel like this one mostly comes down like it's the scary stuff is not the scariest stuff I've ever seen.
It's a PG-13, so.
Yeah, there you go. And so the idea is that, your parents could come and they would have a good time. Or if you were 13 or 14, you could go see it with your friends, and there's
very little even in terms of gore in this. I mean, it's pretty bloodless, honestly.
And there's a scene in which the younger, quote unquote, younger sister, Sam, goes into the bathroom and starts to undress. And then there's a zombie behind her with a knife, and it's a nightmare, and she wakes up. There is that sort of obligatory 80s, like one of the pretty women starts to get undressed.
It's not even a nude scene, though. Of course, she's supposed to be, underage, but
ticks that box.
Yeah.
Ticks that titillating box of evoking sexuality in the midst of all of this death. And so it's a post-apocalyptic film. It's an apocalyptic film, but they go shopping at one point, and there's some I guess they were stock boys that now own the store, and they're sort of psycho, and it takes off his glasses.
They've started to turn already,
Yeah, and it feels very 80s. Like it feels it feels, filler might be too strong a word, but it's a sort of a detour.
Yeah.
That doesn't go anywhere. And anyway.
Another thing so you referenced the shopping, and another thing that I read that I don't really agree with per se is I saw a couple of references to this being they're kind of satirizing Valley Girl culture. And I don't even really, it's not like these girls are ditzy or they're bimbos or anything. You know what I mean? They're pretty smart. They're not particularly annoying or anything. And I feel like every movie, Last People on Earth movie or show or anything, at some point, everybody, the people, whether it's one person or multiple people, figure out, oh, I can just take whatever I want. Did you ever watch the Last Man on Earth show? Did you ever watch that?
Only little bits of it.
So I watched it for a little while, and it kind of went off the rails after a bit for me. But there's some very funny stuff with him where he just goes and he has like a Academy Award and Michael Jordan's like jersey, that actually belonged to Michael Jordan and everything. So again, that's not a Valley. I don't think that's some kind of necessarily statement that they're making about Valley Girls. That's what everybody would do. Wouldn't you? Like, if there was nobody left on Earth, would you just be, hey, I could just go? It's funny at the end, the guy that's the DMZ or whatever, the video game guy, he pulls up in a Mercedes convertible, and the girl says, "Oh, nice car," and he goes, "Yeah, I have 23 others." It's just, and that's what everybody would do. I think.
I don't know that that's the Valley so much is just sort of 80s, self-referential, it's consumerism, and I there was a movie called Valley Girl, right? Like when I think of Valley Girl, I think of it dialed to 11,
right?
Gag me with a spoon, and oh my god, and that kind of really pushing the accent and the blasé attitude, and that wasn't.
This just seems like any teenage girls anywhere. It's not even like
they're very smart. They survive a lot with and they stay pretty even keel. Like if it was the end of the world, I'd lose my mind. You'd go nuts. And they get upset, but the movie lets us stay. In other words, they're kind of the barometer. The audience never gets too upset because these two are more or less, they're pretty unflappable,
And you also have the thing of like the where it's revealed, this is just early on in the movie, but they have a kind of an evil stepmother, and their father is away in some Central America or something like that, and so they are very close, and they love each other, but it's not like they're really all that upset that their parents aren't around anymore, because they doesn't seem like there was a great, they're more upset about other students who are no longer around.
Right.
So
yeah.
Did you recognize, so I did not, because I've not really watched most of these shows, but the guy who plays Hector was on Star Trek Voyager. And there's a new like animated Star Trek series that he is a voice for that too.
He did look familiar to me, but I didn't put that together. I don't think
on like 170 episodes or something like that of Star Trek Voyager, which I don't think I've ever seen before.
I didn't watch Voyager. Is that Captain Janeway?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't. So he did look familiar to me, but I didn't put that together.
Yeah,
did a good job. Everybody did a good job here,
Yeah. Again, kind of reiterating, like you said, it's they use their budget well. It's a pretty, one of the things that for me is a big difference for these older movies compared to movies now. And it's sort of funny to me with our short attention spans and everything, but movies in general now are just so much more complex, it seems, in terms of just the plots. And you watch old films like this, and it's just, there's not, this moves along at a good pace. It's never boring or anything like that. But there's this not a whole lot to it, not in a bad way. But, if this were remade now, it would probably be a lot more, going on, probably a lot more, you know what I mean? It just seems like 70s and 80s movies are just, they're pretty simple, and it just kind of ends,
action, not that it's all action, but it's plot driven. It doesn't stick around and marinate in subtext or what people are their internal lives. This one just kind of clips right along. Then they go to the mall and then they meet the guys and the guys are going to hurt him, but then they get the gun and then they shoot him. Oh, it's Hector's back. Okay, then they go to the you know what I mean? It's like
yeah.
And it's nice in the sense that the movie just kind of trips right along. I mean, not that a deeper movie can't also drive itself.
Sure.
And be rich and complex in lots of different ways.
And but considering
it's just it's a fun watch.
Yeah, this is one I think is a little, even though like you said at the beginning, it's become a cult classic now, but I think it's one that probably not as many people have seen. It's kind of on that kind of a notch or two down from not in terms of quality, but just in terms of visibility, I guess, compared to a lot of the, just big 80s movies of the time. One that I definitely feel we should watch, not the only reason being that the titles are similar, but Night of the Creeps is one that goes along with this a little bit. It's not the same story exactly, but that's another one that I think you would enjoy that we ought to watch sometime. But it's a little bit surprising to me with what you said, $700,000 budget, and it made 14 million. Yeah. It's a little surprising to me that there, as far as I know, there weren't sequels to this. And and you would say, well, what exactly would they do? But they could have pretty easily gotten a sequel out of this, considering the main characters are alive. We have all the movies, horror movies where the villain gets killed over and over again.
Same event, like it really could have been anything.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It wouldn't even need to be like then the same people. This is what happens to them later. You could do just anything. You could have done anything.
Oh yeah. And this is a good, this is a good kind of starter horror, because again, it's not going to be super scary for younger,
right?
Early teens could watch this and probably enjoy it. Or if you have, spouse or significant other or whatever who doesn't like horror all that much, this is, not super scary, but it's fun.
Right. Yeah. If you have spouse.
I
don't have a lot more to say about this one. I did have a major crush on Reggie. I remember that.
Yeah.
I saw her. I was like, well, Last Starfighter for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, I remember her. I was just madly in love with her.
She was one of the big ones of the time. I think everybody wasn't, and the sister's cute too,
Yep.
So I guess we're gonna say 2 thumbs up for this one.
Yeah. I mean, in, out, over. It's, if you like horror movies and you like the 80s, that sweet spot between like 80 and 85 or 86, this is it's a no-brainer. Like, is it the best movie we've ever No, that's not really the point. The point is it's super fun. It's right in the wheelhouse. The horror is, I think it's genuinely affecting at times. Like they go out and everybody's clothes. That's upsetting. You're just like, oh no.
Yes.
It puts you there. And it's not like there's just something eerie about all the clothes being sort of draped right where they fell and the piles of this red dust blowing around. It's upsetting, and it is a low rent effect, but it was effective. And it's sort of full of that. And then at its cheesiest, it's fun because you're like, oh, this is what they thought was cool to say in the 80s or whatever.
But I never felt like it was groan inducing. And again, they get for a lower budget film, I feel like it's all on screen. It's shot well. The music is good. We talked about the acting. The acting is good. So it never feels super low budget.
No, I think I'm sort of surprised that they made this movie on $700,000. But really special effects. It's just location and paying the talent and a bunch of, squibs and, you know, fake ammo.
Yep.
What?
All right. So 2 thumbs up for Night of the Comet.
Night of the Comet, baby.
Did you want to talk about the film festival any?
Sure. Well, it was great to see you. I'm glad you got safe. I had a really good time.
I did too. It was wonderful.
Kind of a whirlwind event, but I think it was well received by the community, and I'm very pleased with how it went. So I think I'll do it again next year. For any of you filmmakers who might be listening, the website is easthamptonfilmfestival.com, and you can submit. Submissions are open.
Does the site, so I was telling a friend about this and he was interested in watching some of the films. Does the site have links for the ones that can be streamed somewhere? Are there links or?
No, but that's a good idea. Of the features, you can stream Just Say Goodbye and you can stream Wade Wofford's The Answer. Both of those are on Amazon. And Montauk 77, which is the third feature, just got a distribution deal. So you ought to be able to stream that, if not already, sometime soon. And then for the shorts, some of the shorts, like if you go to the website and you look at the director's name, just do a Google search for the name of the film. It's a good idea. I probably should go back to the website and put links to like, hey, and if you miss this, here they've hung it on their Vimeo or whatever, and you can watch it here. Because that's a nice idea for interested people.
Yeah.
But it wasn't part of my deal with the filmmakers that I would then make it available to anybody to be able to watch the stuff online. Some of them, they're new films and they're trying to shop them around to other festivals, and so
okay. But yeah, it was a great time. As I said a bunch of times, I was amazed at how you were able to put it together and how well it went and how well it was received, and how many of the people who submitted films were local to that area of Massachusetts. That was amazing to me.
Lots of local talent, lots of local participation. I had a lot of help. Our friend Jade Johnson was invaluable. I couldn't have done this without his help.
Yeah.
And of course, Film Freeway as a platform it's invaluable as a resource. It's a place where filmmakers can upload their film and submit to festivals directly, and where people running film festivals like me can accept those submissions. If you are setting up fees related to people submitting to your festival, you can do that all through Film Freeway. If you're selling tickets, you can do that through Film Freeway.
And that was something maybe, I suppose people who are in the independent filmmaking sphere, that are making films, but I had never heard of that before. And so anybody who's listening to this, if you are somebody who is making films or you want to make films, so that's an avenue for you to get your stuff out there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing that I learned, I don't know how long it's been going on, but you can submit your film directly, for example, to Amazon Prime.
Mm-hmm.
There's no guarantee that they will accept it. And there's a fair number of hoops you have to jump through. Like you have to submit it in a variety of different formats, and the color needs to be, there's specs that it has to meet. But another friend, Travis Guba, made a film and they submitted it directly to Amazon, and Amazon accepted it. So you can stream it on Prime. It's called Taken In. It's 17 minutes long. And the other producer, who's also the lead of that, Ben Sharples, said, them doing that, he's already made more money from just having done that than he's made on any other project he's ever worked on. And I think it's $1.99 or something. It's not expensive to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
It might even be free. I don't know. But when people are watching something that the algorithm thinks is similar, right? It'll suggest, you're like, oh, if you like that, you might like these things. And so it's just coming up in people's queue without them needing to push or advertise or anything. This
Right.
algorithm is working for it. And I get they get, a cent or whatever they get each viewing. But for filmmakers who are trying to fund their next project or just pay back the money they spent from their own pocket on producing their thing, that's really great, because that was not always the case. I don't think you have to get a distributor to be a middleman, and they were notoriously
It's a difficult gatekeeper.
Yeah, there's a and you never, they'd pay you the upfront advance or whatever they said, but then they'd say, oh, we have these expenses to market the film, and that would never get paid back. So you never get any more money from and there's an old, not very good movie called Kentucky Fried Movie that is
I kind of like Kentucky Fried Movie.
Yeah. Well, do you remember it's the karate, the spoof, that's where he goes to the island and there's like a death fight on the island, and he's it's a Bruce Lee one knockoff. He's getting a tour from the Dr. Evil or whatever the guy is, and he's taking him through his evil lair and how he's funding his whole enterprise. And he's like, opium production, white slavery, independent film distribution. It's like, joke is that it's a really evil. So if you could skip it, that's
tough business. Yeah. Well, I thought it was interesting with Travis's film, which I thought was really great. And very good acting and professionally shot and everything, just all around really high quality, that he got it on Amazon because, and not to disparage other people's work or whatever, but there have been some things that I tried to watch on Amazon that were just unwatchable,
right?
Independent things that were just really, really bad. Right. And I just thought, wow, how does this get on Amazon? So it's nice that people like Travis and other filmmakers who were in the festival, that there's that avenue that they can just submit directly to Amazon, and get other good independent stuff on there.
Yeah. I did not do awards, and I was having a conversation with
I didn't even think about that.
The filmmakers last night, and I sort of realized or I got real clear in my conversation with him why I felt strongly that I didn't want to do awards. It's because they were all, I really just wanted to celebrate independent film, specifically local stuff, and not have that be distracting, right?
Yeah.
Some films are going to be more popular with an audience than others. Some films are going to be more technically proficient than others, right? So I suppose you could have all of these different categories where you carefully stack them up against each other, and you'd be like, I think this one, the editing on this one's a little better. But really, I just wanted to be like, look, everybody's at a different place. Everybody brings a different skill set to it, and they're at a different place on their journey. But I've selected this one because I saw something in it that I thought was going to resonate with an audience. And I thought giving out awards would actually detract from that a little bit.
I think you went the right way with that.
Awards can be fun. I don't know that I'll never do that. Maybe I'll produce a thing that is a competition, that there's just like people can vote in the audience or something like that. Like at that Friday night show that you showed up, the horror shorts, that might have been fun. That was a big audience to have some way in which people could pick their favorite, and just for a round of drinks or something. I don't know. It's my money to give prizes or anything, but laurels, right?
Yeah.
Laurels.
But yeah, and I, especially with the community that you have there that's so supportive, it's just going to continue to grow and grow,
I hope.
and
I mean,
the first time is always the toughest,
Yeah, we'll see. I think there's definitely an appetite for it, so I'm going to do it again. I learned a lot, so I think I'm going to make some little adjustments, but I'm pretty clear on what I think those adjustments are going to be. So like I'm going to do it a couple of weeks earlier. I'm not going to do it on Memorial Day again next year. I think that actually there was just too much other stuff going on.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'm going to do 7 screenings all smashed together like that. That was just exhausting to try and navigate. And I also think that if it was spread out a little more, I might have seen people come to multiple things. So,
right.
Like for one Friday night and then the following Friday night, somebody might have gone to both. But if it's Thursday night and Friday night, then they're probably going to pick one or the other. And that's just, a hunch. I don't really have data on that, but
yeah.
So
es posible.
And I think my, the screenings are going to be shorter. So instead of collecting 2 hours worth of shorts, I'm going to probably aim for an hour and focus more on the talk back, or an hour and 15.
Right.
Just people get fatigued and you want to leave them wanting more, right?
Yeah. But it was great. Like I said, I had a great time, and I'm glad that I was able to make it.
Yeah, likewise.
I'll tell you one before we go. I'll tell you one last little movie, again, sort of in our wheelhouse thing. Did you see about that they re-released Morbius, the Jared Leto movie?
Oh,
so people, what's that?
Re-released it?
They re-released it this past weekend, and it hadn't done well initially. It was like a $75 million budget, and it's brought in a little under that, so it's basically a flop, right? Especially for a superhero movie or a Marvel movie. But people on Twitter started these memes saying that they wanted a sequel, and so that was trending on Twitter, and people were saying, I don't know if they had different names for it, but one was that it should be called Morbius 2, It's Morbin Time. And it even went so far as Jared Leto himself got in on this joke, and he did a little video of him with the script with that title and everything. So it's unclear if it was just a joke or if they really took it seriously or what. But Sony apparently took that as, hey, people are interested in this movie, and so they re-released it for the weekend. And it only brought in a couple $100,000.
I mean, it looked.
Yeah, but it's if it was, I can't imagine a studio just being because some people are like, well, they were probably in on the joke, but I can't imagine. So they re-released it on 1,000 screens, and it only brought in $280,000 or something like that. I think it was well, obviously a really small amount, like $300 a screen or whatever, right? So I can't imagine them going through all that trouble just to be like, hey, we're in on the joke. We get your memes or whatever. Apparently they thought that, but I thought that was pretty funny that
with Morbius, is he a bad guy or is he one of those complicated good guys?
I remember the character from, and somebody could probably correct me on this, but I remember the character from the comics way back when, and he was a Spider-Man villain. So I have at least a couple of comics with him fighting Spider-Man, and I thought it was really cool because he's a vampire. Well, in this movie, my understanding is he's a guy with some kind of, he's dying of some terrible disease, and it's kind of the Hulk, I think, where he's trying to cure his illness, and he takes some serum or whatever, and it turns him into this vampire guy. But I think he's a good guy in the movie, but I don't know. But I was actually, after this happening, and it's like kind of timely, I thought, oh, maybe we could watch that next, but you can't. It's like you have to pay $20 for it. It's not, like if it were on HBO Max or something, it's just like, hey, let's just watch it, and maybe this will be a so bad it's good. But I'm not paying $20 to watch it.
Spend $20 on it.
But I just thought it was really funny. There's been some things like that where, people online will, like, not to get in a politics thing, but I don't know if you saw where at one point Trump was going to have one of his rallies, and a bunch of kids, like K-pop fans, I guess, bought up all the tickets, so then nobody was there. And I think that kind of stuff is really, that young people are so savvy with the internet, and they can outsmart big companies. So they basically kind of did a kind of a prank on a big movie studio, and it worked. It seems like. So
it's funny.
So anyway,
I've never even heard such a thing. I mean, how often do movies get re-released? I mean, when did it come out? It came out less than 6
It just came. Yeah, I think it came out in April. I think it was around, the beginning of April so it's, it's not been out of the theaters all that long. They'll re-release the original Star Wars movies, or like they re-released
on
when
the 30th anniversary or whatever,
Yeah. And when whichever Avengers movie beat out Avatar for the #1 movie of all time, then they re-released Avatar to bump Avatar back up to first, because it made another however many more few millions of dollars, so they'll do that kind of thing. But a movie that didn't do well, unless it's something where it's Rocky Horror Picture Show and it's originally released and then gains a cult following, but not a couple of months after it was originally released. So
no,
but I thought it was pretty funny.
An Avatar sequel. Did you see that?
What's that?
I think I saw a trailer for an Avatar.
Oh yeah. We haven't talked about that. What do you think?
I mean, is that what he's been working on for the past 20 years?
15, something like that. Yeah.
Good. I mean, I enjoyed the first one. I think the criticisms of it are valid as a work of screenwriting or whatever. But I remember I went to see it in 3D because that whole thing was like, nobody's ever really taken this 3D thing and pushed the envelope on it. And I really blew my mind. Like them flying around on those dragons in 3D was like absolutely spectacular. So
yeah.
I mean, I would go back to Naboo or wherever the hell it was. The name of the
Pandora,
sure.
Yeah, I will definitely watch it when it comes out. And the thing that my view on it is, it's basically, you can't underestimate James Cameron. I would probably bet everything that I have that it'll break all the records. The thing that's weird, and I was the same. I'm not going to hate on Avatar. I mean, I enjoyed it, seeing it in the theater, same as you. I was blown away by it and everything. The thing that's weird about Avatar is, the biggest grossing movie of all time, and nobody quotes it. Nobody,
right.
Do you see people wearing Avatar t-shirts? Nobody dresses up as Avatar characters for Halloween. You know what I mean? It was this weird cultural thing that just everybody saw it, and then nobody talks about it, or you know what I mean. So there is the thing of, okay, is there a demand for this after however many years? And there's 3 more. He kind of worked on them all together, and I think it's
trilogy now. There was the first film, and now he's made a trilogy.
Yeah, he's made a second trilogy, and they're going to come out a year apart from each other, I think. And that's what you kind of wonder. I'm sure this next one will be huge because they're there's going to be the curiosity, there's going to be the people who are like, oh yeah, I liked that. That was good. And, will it be this kind of transformative movie that the first one was? But then I wonder what happens with the next two. Are they, I guess we'll see. And like I say, at this point, I don't think you can ever count James Cameron out.
No, he knows how to make a good movie, an entertaining movie.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'll definitely go see it.
Yeah.
So anything else?
Nope. So that's about it from this end. What do we have a sense of what to do next time?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess we'll have to figure that out
Be a surprise.
Off mic, and it will be a surprise for people the next time around. That's the thing. I don't even know if people, will I'll see in the numbers where people are, some episode that we did a long time ago, had some downloads. And so I don't even know if people listen to these in order. You don't really have to. It's not like they build on each other or anything like that. But if you are listening to this and you listen each week, we don't know what we're going to do next time. It'll be a surprise. So
we should say that it's Chris and Chris Talk Movies at gmail.com. That's our handle. We're on YouTube. We're on the podcast sites. Like and subscribe. That's awesome when you do that. Thank you. Leave us a comment, a suggestion. Hopefully constructive.
We like constructive.
Yeah. And don't be a stranger.
Exactly. Yes, we like to hear from you.
And so mystery roll for next week, but it'll be something fun.
For sure.
So unless you have anything else to add,
I think that's all.
We will talk to you all next week. Bye.
Bye.